the future of StarCraft 2, PiG's proposed gameplay patch. All right, gamers. Apparently, we are diving into the deep end of the pool again. The Balance Council is no more. Maybe it's time for, I don't know, the community itself to cook up a balance patch. So let's have a look. I know PiG has been, I'm sure he's linked the document here somewhere too. There we go. Yeah. PiG is somebody that thinks about the game a lot. And he generally has some pretty good ideas, I think, across the board. Last time, though, he suggested reverting basically everything ever since the Balance Council took over, which I don't really agree with. It's kind of dumb to, like, overcorrect and, like, just kind of remove several years of balancing in the game. But I'm interested in hearing what he says. Now, this is a video that is 1 hour and 3 minutes long. I don't know if I'm going to watch the whole thing, because that sounds like it's way too much time. But we can have a look.
Alright. Welcome back, everybody. It's time to go over my proposed balance changes for the future of StarCraft 2. Zerg, Infested Terrans back. Spellcasters get auto attacks so they don't run to their death. Spires build faster. Banelings extra hit points. Overlords move slower. Broodlord bug fix so that it shoots immediately.
How's this video 1 hour and 3 minutes long, dude? I think we can do it in 30 seconds.
We've also got Ravager morphs quicker. A whole bunch of other stuff. Queen, Hatchery, Spore Crawler changes from the last patch. Reverse! That's right, back to 150 cost Queens. Get out of here, dumb Balance Council changes. Lurker gets its hit points back to 200. Terran, Armories become invisible after Armory again. Ghosts are now
Widowmines
having a light tag. They're actually going to die to Banelings. EMP completely redesigned. So it's not instantly draining shields while still being very effective.
Should I make a list as well, guys? I'm gonna also open up a notepad document here, and I'm gonna like write down a few things. Notepad, of course, is the greatest tool. Everybody knows. I'll write down a few things.
But Liberator becomes a dominator of the skies again with getting its range back. Widowmines burrow quicker once again. Ghosts spell damage is back, so they...
Look, I don't really care so much about like perfect balance in the game. I feel like perfect balance in the game is admirable, but always impossible. Because how do you even know if something is perfectly balanced? The way that we balance the game right now is we look at, well, Serral seems to be winning an awful lot of tournaments over the last 6, 7, 8 years or whatever. We just kind of nerf Zerg. And then we're like, oh, Protoss is not winning any tournaments. I guess we need to buff Protoss. Like, that's kind of what we do. And I don't hate that approach because I don't really know exactly how you would do it any other way. But right now, I kind of feel like across the board in StarCraft 2, the game is too stable. As in, like, everything's kind of scoutable. And it's too settled. A lot of the strategies that we used to see in the early game are just not really there anymore because players have gotten either too good or it's too easy to just sort of see it. So, right now, for example, in Protoss versus Terran, with the infinite hallucination scouts, I think that's too good. You can see way too much. I think for Zerg versus Terran, Zerg versus Protoss, Zerg is way too defensive. Like, Zerg doesn't really have any aggressive offensive options. Everything just sort of gets countered and there's no variety at all. So, I think a little bit more chaos is good. Yes. The problem, though, and this is what we always come back to. Sorry, by the way, to PiG for this freeze frame. I mean... the problem, though, is that Blizzard is Blizzard, right? I've talked about it at length in the past. Blizzard doesn't really do a lot of StarCraft-related stuff anymore. There's like one guy that occasionally gets a little bit of time to like talk about the game and update some stuff. But Blizzard doesn't do much with StarCraft, which kind of sucks. Right now, for example, we have a Cyclone bug in the game that's been in the game for months. It's still there. Why is it not being fixed? It's stupid. We have a lot of bugs in the game, actually, across the board. Like the Master League promotion bug, I think that one should be changed. I think in general, the leagues need to like be redistributed. We need a lot of little changes, and there's just not a lot of like, we can't patch the game by ourselves, right? Like it's not a thing. Ultimately, Blizzard needs to be the one that like does stuff. And right now, I don't even know if you can like upload custom maps and all that. The Balance Council is basically gone. We no longer have the Balance Council, so we kind of need a little bit, like, it's a two-way street. There's a lot of people that are willing to do free work, like, for example, what PiG is doing here, and I guess maybe what I'm doing here, too. I don't know how far I'll go with this, but There's a lot of people that are willing to do free work, but it does need to be implemented, and it does need to be tested, and it does need to be checked and make sure that it's like actual, like proper QA, right? Like we need stuff. Yeah, and obviously Microsoft is cleaning house. A lot of people have recently once more gotten removed out of their positions. StarCraft 2 is like the absolute lowest priority for everything they seem to do, because they are kind of dropping the ball as well on World of Warcraft Classic, which is dumb. So there's a lot of like little things that make everything a bit frustrating. As the game is right now, I think it is a little too stable. It's still very good, but you know, we need a little bit. But let's listen.
Blast the crap out of stuff. Back to 2 supply from 3 supply as well. Protoss, energy recharge gets a slight nerf. Observers and Oracle Vision a little bit nerfed, as well as hallucinations. That's right, Protoss is getting all the nerfs. Stasis Ward also is going to have its duration way down. But DT attack delay after Blink has been removed. Disruptor made great again. The original Disruptor, the destroyer of worlds, the big boom boy.
Yes.
The Immortal gets in there as well. No, none of this reduced attack speed from the last patch. Gone. Tempest also reverted as well. Whole bunch of bug fixes and more. Let's get in here and let's talk about it. All right, so that was just a preview, but let's actually go through and talk about this, since this is a theoretical work in progress. I say here in the forward, look, I'm putting this out to gain...
This is way too many words, Pig. Look, you've introduced this video to a Zoomer viewer base. You really think I can read this many words? That's like 10 sentences, mate. I kind of lost track of what it said after. I'm just glancing at a couple of words here and there. I think basically what this says, guys, without actually reading it, is that like, this is just ideas. And like, maybe we can like, kind of like, you know, talk about it rather than say like, hey, this is supposed to be implemented.
Feedback from the community. The goal is to start a discussion so we can be prepared when the Classic Games department comes back to us as a community and says, hey guys, well, it says we're meant to patch StarCraft at some point. What do you guys want us to do? So ideally, I want us to already have a mod with a whole bunch of changes up there so we can play on it, host show matches, figure things out, discuss as a community, and do all of that. Unfortunately,
look at us spoon feeding the $1 trillion company, man. I love that. I love that.
Of course, we're waiting until Blizzard fixes that.
Like, here comes the aeroplane. Just open up white, Microsoft.
Arcade exploit and re-enables uploads. We may have a workaround around that for now, but we'll see. Obviously, until we actually get a patch, we've got to wait for that for sure. But maybe there'll be a workaround to test it before then. We'll see if that's possible or not. More on that in a future video.
Yeah.
Until then, these links for this game nerfed because
Yeah.
The way it is.
Enough preface.
I want this thing. I want that thing. Oh, you got the thing. I want the thing. Going in every different direction. And even though there's...
I love fast forwarding and we just arrive here.
The community can pick that up and enough people can...
Yeah. Let's get to the changes.
No, I've been after the next big patch that we get. It's like, Blizzard, please.
Don't take away people's toys. StarCraft 2 is a well-designed game, and there's too much scouting and vision. Yeah, I think Pig and me basically agree on practically everything. Let's talk about the actual changes, though.
They still keep losing, and you kind of go, like, I think we should just Sarah in a money to do. So just keep that in mind, because there's a lot of people who I don't think have played a lot of high-level Terran who always bring up the Orbital. It is the best late-game scouting. We could say overpowered, right?
Here we go.
Game-ending powers.
No.
That's right, guys. Game-ending one of them knocks the even when a team. Reasons, guys. Number one.
Wow. All right. We've made it. The first actual balance suggestion. 18 minutes and 20 seconds in. Now, you can go watch that if you want to. I mean, this is an hour-long video. I don't really want to watch an hour-long video right now. So maybe I will, like, criticize some stuff that Pig very clearly says, okay, don't criticize this. You know, it's okay.
All right, now let's go over the actual changes themselves. I kind of skimmed them at the very start. Let's talk about them a little bit more. So first of all, Zerg, Infestor. The Infestor is going to get the Infested Terran back. And this is a spell which a lot of people are nostalgic for. They've missed it. It was a cool toy. Why did we take it away? There's 2 reasons, guys. Number one...
It was overpowered and impossible to balance.
So basically, they buffed it. They gave it a rocket launcher because Zerg struggled with anti-air, especially in late game. Corruptors weren't that good, they felt like, so they added a rocket attack, about Legacy of the Void time, I think early Legacy, which shot further range, did more damage, and it made the Infested
about like 9 years ago.
Terran just way more effective as an anti-air unit, and it actually became a kind of primary anti-air unit, and combining with like Broodlords and Fungal, it created these standoffs where if you could just Fungal the Protoss army or whatever, the air army, you just throw like 1,000 Infested Terrans on the ground, And the best move was to never fight it for the Protoss or whatever. Sometimes they could storm them down, but usually it was to just recall or get out of there. And it would create these standoffs where you throw down.
So the Infested Terran replaced Microbial Shroud. Or sorry, Microbial Shroud replaced the Infested Terran. So it, like, basically the absolute best ability in all of StarCraft 2 got replaced by the absolute worst ability in all of StarCraft 2. And then obviously we've had some Microbial Shroud buffs over the years, but I think most people can agree that Microbial Shroud is kind of terrible. It's just kind of ass, right? Like, you just kind of have it, but it's really just like a giant, like, storm here button. And it's like, it's not very interesting. I don't know if bringing back the Infested Terran is necessarily the way to go, but I will say that I always kind of liked the unit. It was just that any sort of, like, free unit design in StarCraft 2 is really difficult to balance. So, like, I like the general concept of the Infested Terran. It would definitely shake things up, yes. But for some time, like, the Infestor was, like, the only unit that Zerg players would make. Pretty much. Because it was an army all on its own. Like, Broodlord Infestor was practically unbeatable. And I'm a little concerned that if you bring a unit like that back, Zerg players will go back again. So you know, like, how right now a lot of Protoss players are sitting back trying to make that Death Ball army? I'm a little afraid that if you bring this type of thing back, Zerg players are going to be the ones sitting back and making the Death Ball army.
All these eggs, and the enemy would be like, well, I'm just not going to fight that. And the Zerg's like, okay, well, now I got to wait for that 4,000 energy to regen, so I'm going to try and avoid fighting as well. And you get these kind of weird standoffs. So I think that rocket version being such a good late game and anti-air unit was a big issue, but I still think it was a cool unit. And I'm like, come on, bring it back. Was it a little overpowered at a few points? Yes.
Yes.
But that is why we are giving the non-rocket version back.
Okay.
But not even the...
So let's do an experimental patch, right? Experimental patch. I like the idea. Infested Terran instead of Microbial Shroud. Let's see. Infested Terran instead of Microbial Shroud. No rockets. No benefit from upgrades. So you can still storm the shit out of them.
Because the initial version, I believe, and it's similar to like a Marine, right? Maybe kind of like a stimmed Marine with a few more hit points is what you would say. But it doesn't scale with the upgrades, which means obviously it doesn't, get more powerful. It actually gets weaker as the game goes on. And therefore is weaker in those late game stalemate scenarios. Doesn't have the good anti-air attack, which is so good in those.
Fair.
But it's a cool ability. I know some people are like, oh, I don't like free units. I agree. It's not really the same as like a Swarmos that just throws units endlessly though. These guys take a while to spawn, and then they really are very, very slow. You can just walk away from them most of the time. And they're not going to scale that well to the end game.
In a way, Infested Terrans can kind of feel a little bit like a don't fight here type of button, in much of the same way as like a Time Warp is a I don't want to fight right now, let's back up type of button. So I am not sure if this is what you want to bring back, but for experimental changes, a weaker version of the Infested Terran would be cool. Now, I disagree with the next spot, though, that Pig goes over.
Why did Blizzard never add this? I don't know.
So, once upon a time, the High Templar got a little water balloon ability that basically allows you to use the All Army hotkey a little bit more frequently. So, Pig is suggesting that the Infestor should get a regular attack. Same for the Viper, that the Viper should get a regular attack as well. I think, and maybe I'm an elitist, I don't know, I don't think I am, but I think the fact that High Templar have a water balloon basic attack, so to clarify, it deals less damage than a worker. Like, the only reason the High Templar has an auto attack is so you can all army hotkey, and it won't just fly into the opponent's units for free, right? Like, that's what they used to do a lot. I think you should remove that ability. I think it's stupid that High Templar are the only ones that have a basic auto attack like that. Now, you could sort it out by giving Infestors and Vipers a similar auto attack, but I just don't like it. I would rather just see the High Templar auto attack removed. Especially with how good High Templar are now. I just think it's silly to give spellcasters... I mean, obviously the Queen is a spellcaster, the Ghost is a spellcaster, right? But, like, they deal actual damage. But I don't really like Band-Aids very much. I feel like a Band-Aid solution, like, oh, players are just YOLOing in their High Templar, let's give them an auto attack so you can all army hotkey more effectively. I think that's kind of dumb. I think getting punished for making mistakes in a competitive game is fine. So I would rather see the High Templar lose its snowball, its water balloon attack. So that's what I'm gonna write down. High Templar. I'm gonna call them water balloons because that's what I always think of them. Snowballs? Really? High Templar water balloon attack removed. I think that's stupid. I think it also is kind of clumsy though to give it to like infestors and to vipers. I don't know.
Why are warp gates on a hotkey, but hatcheries and barracks aren't automatically on a hotkey?
Don't know.
I honestly don't know what the fuck Blizzard was thinking. They added a bunch of cool quality of life specifically to Protoss. I get the warp gate is because like, well, noobs who play mouse only can't use warp gate because they have to look at 2 different areas of the screen. How do they select the gateway and then get back to warp in? But come on, man, like just there's no reason not to add this. It's a quality of life thing. It's going to be a meaningless attack. It does like 4 damage every friggin' 2 seconds. You know, it's basically adds no actual combat power. It's just there to stop the unit running in front of your army and getting itself killed.
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to help noobs. But we've already done this with the High Templar. If you're going to open the floodgates, open the floodgates. Instead,
What was that, by the way?
They let a little bit of water through for the High Templar, and then they closed it. It's dumb. Do the same for the Viper. Why not? Just give it the same. Meaningless. 2 damage every 2 seconds. Whatever it is. These things are in the campaign. There's no reason not to do that. Spire, minus 6 second build time. Mutas are rare due to the long wait time for payoff and investment.
I think mutas are indeed rare. When did they... Here we go. It was added in patch 4.0. 2017, dude! High Templar have had water balloons for more than half of StarCraft 2's life now. Okay, pretty much. That's crazy. I don't like it. I still think it's stupid. Apparently it has a name. Psyblast. It's not called a water balloon. I know. How silly is that? Okay, so Spire, I agree. So I think everybody likes Mutaling Bane. When do we see Mutaling Bane in StarCraft 2 in 2025? Basically never. We see it every once in a while, but it's kind of tricky. There's a few reasons as to why. First off, mutas are extremely flimsy. Like, I feel like mutas in general are just absolute paper planes. And while they have technically a lot of potential, they are just difficult to actually play. And unless you have like Raynor levels of APM, you rarely see somebody play them effectively. Secondly, though, they're difficult to get to because the Spire is just really expensive and takes forever to produce. Now, I always go back to this, but I think Brood War is a brilliantly designed game. Even though, like, you know, it wasn't really meant as like a competitive game when they made it. It's kind of sick how like well made that game is. But in Brood War, a Spire is 200 minerals and 150 gas. In StarCraft 2, the Spire is 200 minerals, 200 gas. I feel like one of the easiest changes you could do is just make the Spire cheaper. Just make the Spire 150 gas, just like it is in Brood War. I kind of like having them similar. Maybe that's just me being a bit nostalgic. But Spire from 200 to 200 150. I think is very reasonable. So Pig is suggesting a Spire build time decrease.
And ease of being scouted since it takes so long to kick in. It's one of the slowest structures in the entire game. Yeah.
Dude, genuinely, like, I'm not saying that, like, so there are some people out there that think that StarCraft 2 needs to be very similar to Brood War. I think it's dumb. But the fact that, like, Brood War is as well designed as it is honestly insane to me.
The Hive is also 71 seconds. I don't think there's any other structures that take this long. Keep in mind, guys, when Legacy of the Void came out, we swapped from 6 workers to 12 workers. That massively sped up the economy at the start. And yet all the tech stayed the same. Except then they realized after a few weeks on the beta of Legacy of the Void, they said, oh, this is weird. People are on 3-base economy with like mass slow zergling and mass marine. This is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, let's knock 20 seconds off link speed, stim, and warp gate. Oh, okay, now it feels a bit more natural when those, you know, upgrades for the tier 1 units kick in now. Okay, that's good. Left it there. So they fundamentally changed the economy system and the pacing of the game. And then it was very ham-fisted how they did. They didn't change anything else. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to do. But and I don't think we can go through and change the tech timing of every single structure and every single thing. Maybe we can. Maybe we just
I think we can.
10% off everything or something.
If that's the problem, sure, but
20%. I don't know, 10%? Probably 10% off everything. I don't know. Maybe we could do that. In this case, though, this is just one where that Spire is just sitting there for ages.
I agree.
Takes forever to kick in. We don't see muted that much. I think a 6-second buff is not so crazy that from the Protoss or Terran side, you're like, wow, it's unbeatable. On the other side,
I think both. I think a cost reduction and a Spire build time decrease is fine.
Don't buff it too much. If you're also going, why only 6 seconds? That's BS. You got to keep in mind, as a Zerg, you unlock that tech structure and you can just build 20 Mutalisks. Protoss and Terran can't do that. You know, if there's a lot more time to scout. Oh, he's gone 3 Starport Battlecruise. He's gone triple Stargate Tempest, and then he's chronoing those units 3 at a time. And now he has 6 Tempests. It's so many minutes more delay than it is to build a Spire and build 20 Mutalisks. So this still does need to be a significant amount of time to make sure this is fair. But I think 6 seconds to me feels like it's a relatively safe change. Yep. I think that's actually a bit more. But even there, I've been joking that it is. You make Banelings and it's just.
So they nerfed centrifugal hooks a few patches ago. So centrifugal hooks is the Baneling speed upgrade. It used to always give 5 additional hit points to Banelings, and they decided to take that away. And to compensate, they have changed Terran nowhere. Like literally no adjustments whatsoever. It was just a straight up nerf to Banelings, which is why we just don't see a lot of Baneling-based play anymore. Now, this was one of those classic Blizzard changes where they didn't just change the HP, but they also made it so that like Banelings can no longer one-shot probes with +2 melee. It's a very specific interaction, but I think it was a bit too much. I think everybody would agree that Zerg is a little bit too cost inefficient right now. It's just a little tricky. Like, obviously, this is only really a thing after the or at the absolute highest level for everybody playing the game. It doesn't really seem to make that big of a difference. But what if they just have a separate upgrade for +5 HP? Whatever they would come up with, they could just make centrifugal hooks more expensive, which is what it, by the way, used to be. So maybe just revert that entire change. But yeah, I feel like that would not be a terrible idea. Maybe a lot of this, though, would be too much. But I think some experimentation would be powerful. It would be nice. I agree. Baneling speed +5 HP. I feel like that's very reasonable. It's what the game used to have for like a decade. And then we just kind of took it away for no apparent reason. And didn't get anything else to compensate for it.
A storm targeting. You see a wad of Banelings moving around the screen. You're like, oh, I got a storm there.
Yeah. It's so easy to counter. Oh.
So cool that we see that variety, but I don't think it should come at the cost of the Baneling just being one in terms
Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So, Overlord. Reduce movement speed from 0.902 to 0.82. This will increase the ability to deny scouting, combined with the lower amount of pervert pillars on modern maps, allows players to hide their builds more effectively from Zerg, unless Zerglings are fast Overlord speed or fast lair. Yeah. I agree. So if we want to like nerf scouting across the board for everybody, so you can do more sneaky strategies again, I feel like reducing movement speed on some of those scouting tools is a very reasonable thing to do. So I'm going to write it down as like Overlord speed minus 10%. So base speed, like movement speed that is. I feel like this is a very reasonable thing to do just to deny scouting. And I feel like you then also definitely have to make some changes to Protoss. So right now what we see from Protoss is hallucinated Phoenix scouts. If Protoss wants to, they can do infinite hallucinated Phoenix scouts, which is kind of dumb. I think it's too strong. You can basically scout everything. Hearthstone had a suggestion to like basically half the amount of energy you get from energy recharge and make it available twice as frequently, meaning that you have to use twice the amount of energy from the Nexus to use energy recharge. I kind of think that's okay. And that would reduce the amount of scouting quite significantly from Protoss, but Protoss can still get very easy full vision if they want to, which kind of makes things a little bit trickier across the board, but I am gonna write that down. I think that's a good change suggested by Harstem. So, energy recharge is twice as fast, but gives energy charge cooldown is twice as fast. Energy charge effectiveness is half as much. So basically, you still pay 50 energy from the Nexus to get the energy recharge down. Meaning that, like, if you want to go for the full scout, you can still do it, but it would cost you an extra chrono boost. You could also, like, reduce movement speed of some things. Like, hallucinated units could have, like, reduced movement speed. I kind of like it, though. I kind of like the hallucinated Phoenix Scouts quite a bit, because in the past, Protoss used to be very blind. But I think now it's like a little, it's like an overcorrection, you know? Like, we've gone from, like, never having any vision for Protoss to, like, always having all the vision. What's going on, Sirik? Hello, hello. Welcome. A change you heard and you kind of like is that you need to have a building to hallucinate a unit, but this would reduce hallucination use by a ton. Yeah, if you need a building for it, it would, like, basically remove it altogether, because it's too expensive. It takes too long. I kind of like Sentry First builds, but I think they're, like... So Sentry First builds, the risk is that the opponent goes for something that counters your early Sentry. If the opponent, however, doesn't, you just have infinite vision. For as long as Protoss wants to send hallucinated Phoenixes around, you can just basically get infinite vision. This would also be a nerf to High Templar Storm, ever so slightly, because it would be slightly more difficult to actually manage, which I think is also reasonable, because a lot of Protoss players are just, like, warping in a High Templar, energy recharge on the High Templar, Storm. It's the same for, like, energy recharge on Oracles. Right now, Oracles literally never run out of energy when you use them defensively. If you have to use twice the amount of energy from the Chrono Boost, right, that would otherwise go to Chrono Boost, it means that you have to make more of a decision. Like, it's less of a no-brainer and more of a decision. And the fact that you have to do it twice as frequently means that there's slightly more to manage, which also feels fair to me.
Overlord's movement speed is going to be reduced from 0.902 down to 0.8204, and that's going to bring it back to the heart of the swarm speed, massively increased from the initial Wings of Liberty speed, which was like 0.65 or something. They increased it by 25% in 2012 February, because they just realized Overlords couldn't scout crap.
Recently.
But then they buffed it again in Legacy of the Void. I think going all the way back to Wings of Liberty is pretty big. I don't think we can do that necessarily. Especially on bigger maps, the Overlord will just never get there. Don't get me wrong, I think drone scouting is totally fine.
We never see drone scouting. No reason for it.
Zerg. But I think if we change it so Zerg has to drone scout or wants to drone scout, is that bad, guys? I don't think that's bad.
No.
As long as Zerg gets commensurate buffs in other areas and the balance at the end of the day comes down. So just try to think beyond. This is no. You're taking away my thing. That's unfair. Remember, I totally, at the end of the day, if I nerf you and Wire, I would love to see bigger, stronger buffs.
This is a man who's been bullied by his YouTube comments. Don't let yourself get bullied by your YouTube comments, okay? You're allowed to push your opinion out on the internet, even if it's wrong. But you do have to be able to, like, kind of zoom out and look at the game from, like, a bigger point of view, right? Like, what would across the board make the game better? Not so much as, like, they're nerfing my stuff. I don't want my stuff nerfed. Like, that's a bad way to look at it. It's all about, like, actually making the game better.
Other areas and things like that. And so think about it just in terms of the idea of, remember, we want people to be able to deny scouting combined with lower amount of...
PiG doesn't have, like, some sort of hate boner for Zerg players, okay? Like, that's not how it goes. It's not like he wakes up in the morning, he's like, you know what? Fuck Zergs. Like, that's not what he actually wants to make the game better. Yeah, PiG would agree, I think, that he wants to make the game better. I can't look into his head, but I'm assuming in his, like, first 18 minutes of the video, he may have mentioned something like that.
Pervert pillars on modern maps, which we're already seeing, which I think is a good change. Even though there are pervert pillars, but they're off to the side a bit or further out. Like, they're not as obnoxious. It used to be, hey, I can see your gases and your mineral line and your full wall off and army moving in and out of your base with the pillar, which I think was ridiculous. I think now the pillars are much more like, oh, you can often see them move in and out, catch a glimpse of it, or you can poke in off the thing to see the...
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see Overlord speed as, like, the first option again every once in a while for Zergs. These days, we rarely see Overlord speed as like the lair. Like you can get it at hatchery tech. It's just that nobody does because it's kind of shit. You may as well just get a lair and get an overseer going instead because the lair unlocks way more stuff. I don't know if maybe that, like, if you want to compensate Overlord base movement speed reduction, maybe like make Overlord speed upgrade. I don't know, 25. Well, how much does it cost right now exactly? Pneumatized carapace. I think like making it like 25 minerals, 25 gas cheaper. Yeah, so like make it 75, 75. I think that would be maybe introducing a little bit of early game variety. I would also love to see Overlord drops move to hatchery tech. I just want to see something early game Zerg, man. Like, this is kind of like, Zerg is just like, punch, punch, punch. Like, there's nothing you can really do other than get punched. I feel like having some early game variety would be nice. So there's this obvious thing, right, where you can upgrade your Overlord into a Dropper Lord. The Ventral Sex upgrade. Right now, the Ventral Sex upgrade requires a lair. I would really like it, and maybe this would be too much. You would have to test it. But I would like this to like require an Evo chamber. I feel like an Evo chamber requirement would be like a lateral step for Zerg into a structure you don't really want, but you kind of need later on. So you would have to like make a commitment to it. But like lair just feels like it's so freaking like, it takes forever, man. So you could like make Ventral Sex requirement Evo chamber rather than a lair. Now maybe all of this combined is too much. I don't know. But I would like to see some of it. It would be really fun. I kind of miss the times that Zerg players would actually go for like early game cheeses, you know? Like, when's the last time we have seen Zergs go for like really any aggression? Like right now, the way that Zergs do aggression in the early game is like, they're like, please don't open up Banshee. Please don't open up Banshee because you're gonna, like, it's stupid. That's a dumb way to play. Like, there's no counter to it. Maybe this would make, maybe this would like introduce Baneling drops at minute 3. Yeah, you might be right. I don't know.
A bit more interaction going on there, which is really good. So anyway, you know, they can hide their builds more effectively from Zerg, unless Lings or a fast Overlord speed or a fast lair for Overseer are invested into. But there is another thing. We've got the history here of the Overlord speed. Oh, sorry. History of the Overlord speed here, guys. If you guys want to see those numbers. Now, if this doesn't feel right, we could reduce the Overlord's hit points so that it's easily sniped.
Yeah.
Bit of a problem because they are like...
Yeah. Okay, next.
12. In the old days, is that bad? Well, if they go hatch first, they're just ahead. Yeah, they're like a drone ahead. Like, if I'm watching Serral against Lambo, a match where Serral's very heavily favored, Lambo's a very good player, I don't think it really matters that much if Lambo goes hatch first and Serral goes pool first. Like, I just think that creates a bit of interest. Oh, Lambo took a gamble by going hatch first and he gets a slight lead. Like, that, to me, is somewhat interesting. Likewise, oh, you went 13-12, you took a big gamble because most people play pool first, and you caught him going hatch first. Oh, he gambled and got called out for it. You called his bluff. Like, that poker element of StarCraft, I know some people don't like there being any gambling, but I think you need a little bit of educated gambling and build choices is good, and if you want to play conservatively, play the pool first every game, you can do that. Serral will play the pool first 9 games out of 10, right? Other players will play the 13-12 9 games out of 10. And not just CVZ, but obviously like proxies as well. Like, do you drone scout? Rogue always drone scouts for proxies because he's not good at drone micro and in for a volley or two and runs away for a siege hit and run style tactical usage. It does make...
So, Brute Lord, change the attack behavior so there's no delay on his first shot, the bug fix that was proposed in the last balance. So, basically what they did in the most recent balance change for StarCraft 2 is they fixed a bug on the Brute Lord to make it a more reliable unit. However, because it turned out to be slightly too good, they reverted the bug fix. Now, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever read in any patch note list ever. They like reverted a bug fix. Like, seriously, that's just straight up dumb. It doesn't even make any sense. We like fixed the problem and then we're like, the fixed problem actually is, no, it's stupid. Yeah, the bug became a feature. It's like, no, actually, we didn't want it to be a bug in the end. We wanted it to be a feature. Because Zerg is too strong already? I don't know about that, man. It's not even about, like, too strong. It's about interesting. And I feel like Brute Lords right now are rarely used. Like, we just don't see them. It's kind of dumb. So this will make the Brute Lord much quicker to get off its first volley, allowing it to interrupt snipes. Hey, thank you, Alex. Appreciate you for the 35, thank you. Kill high Templar key units very quickly. This basically follows through the direction of the Balance Council was headed, make the Brute Lord a bit less stillmatey and more interesting, and I'm curious to see how this plays out, as that first volley actually firing immediately makes the unit feel much more responsive. I don't think that's a bad thing, guys. Now, obviously, I'm not really thinking ahead much of what this final list is going to be like, and likely none of it is going to be working out particularly, you know, maybe it's not going to be balanced, but I think, like, I'm mostly thinking about, like, gameplay and, like, fun and interest for viewers and, like, as enjoyers of the game. Like, what does the game need to be more interesting? And I feel like shaking up a couple of those things and bringing back units and tools that are underutilized and, yeah, allowing them to be played more frequently, I think that's really fun. So I agree. Brute Lord, bug fix. Slight buff, more microable. There we go.
Make the unit more interesting in theory. Broodlings still suck. Saying we didn't.
Yeah. And maybe if you fix this, you have to, like, compensate somewhere else. Like, maybe if you fix this and it's like, okay, Brute Lords are too strong, nerf their damage, nerf their movement speed, nerf their cost, like, whatever. I don't really care, but, like, I feel like that's a more elegant dial to turn if you want to balance than, like, reverting a bug fix. I think it's stupid. All right. Sorry, I'm getting really, before the end of the video, I'm going to be screaming. I'm just going to be shouting at everybody, man. No, but seriously, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Like, reverting a bug fix is one of the dumbest, like, it's insane. Okay, so he also has a bunch of revisions. Or reversions, rather. I'm reversing these changes. So the Ravager build-up time increased from 8.5 to 12 seconds and removed the random delay. This change failed to open up the mid-game aggressive options for TMP. Okay, let's have a listen. I don't know what he means with this.
Too many power spikes that I think have been removed from StarCraft 2, and I think that's one that Zerg should have back. All right, we're also going to revert a bunch of things from the Balance Council. So these are just the initial changes, and we're reversing this. You've got to kind of flip these backwards. So we're reversing the Ravager build time. This is a change I pushed for a few years ago. I thought Ravagers were too good at stopping Protoss early and mid-game timings, and I felt like, hey, we really want Protoss to be a bit more active instead of just trying to turtle.
So he's saying these need to be reversed. So right now it is right now it's 12.14 seconds for a Ravager to be built, and he's saying it needs to be 8.5 seconds again. Yo, what's going on, Babine? Is this a bad time? Subscribing? When you resub, it's never a bad time. Thank you very much. And it goes for anybody. You can always subscribe.
Like that and do 3-base, 4-base plays. It did not work at all. This was a terrible change. All it did was it weakened Zerg attack timings. That few seconds on morphing the Ravager, we don't see...
We don't see early game cheeses anymore because the Ravager is like 3 seconds later.
Protoss doing Immortal Sentry pushes because of this. We don't see an increase in Terran 2-base plays. If anything, I see more 3-base pushes. So I would say this...
I actually forgot about this change, dude. I actually haven't thought about this change in ages.
Abjectly failed. And I am one of the people responsible for saying, I think this is a good idea, we should try it. But I think we should revisit it and go, it didn't work. It didn't meet its stated goal.
Is this a man taking responsibility on the internet? Over something people have forgotten about? I didn't know that was a thing.
Let's remove it. This is basic stuff that the Balance Council never does. I don't know
he didn't
why.
even like make a straw man or anything. He just took responsibility even though nobody was accusing him of anything. That's crazy.
I want to remove it. I would like to take away something that I contributed to that is bad for StarCraft. Can we remove that now? Can we be responsible? I'd like to get rid of that. Just give Zerg a few more options.
Mate, you got me convinced.
Yeah, I was totally wrong. I'll own that. Queen Hatchery, Spore Crawler.
Hold up.
Change.
Revert. Ravager morph time. So again, this is going to open up a lot more timing attacks. It's 4 seconds. 4 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but she told me it was a really long time. Okay, so there's a couple more over here. The queen cost increased. So this was increased with the most recent patch from 150 to 175. And to compensate for it, the hatchery was reduced from 300 to 275. I don't like it. Mostly just because it feels wrong. And I know my feelings are not really necessarily reasonable or necessary, like even important here. But it's stupid. 175 minerals for a queen and 275 for a hatchery is just dumb. You know the worst part about it? You know, like when you cancel a hatchery, you now get 206 minerals back. Why are we getting it? Like it says plus 206 on the screen. I kind of hate it. I don't like it. Maybe it's worse. I don't know. Maybe it's necessary, but I always thought it was kind of a weird change. I was just kind of whatever about this change because a lot of people seem to push for it. I kind of agree that it's kind of dumb. I think sending the hatchery back to 300 and the queen back to 150 is okay. Like these are very small dials to turn. Like the idea was that Zergs were gonna make less queens. I mean, you guys have seen StarCraft 2 in 2025, right? Like, do we see less queens? You know why people make a lot of queens? It's because the queen is like the only option for early game. Like, you have nothing else. There's some people that have suggested moving the Hydra Den down to hatchery tech, but leaving the upgrades for the Hydra Den at lair tech. So what you have is a Hydra Den that you can make right after the spawning pool, but you can't get the speed and you can't get the ranged upgrade until you go up to a lair. I think if you do that, you could nerf the queen to like, say, 200 minerals. That would be an interesting test. That would be an interesting change. I'm going to write it down just because, I don't know, I think it might be fun. So, queen cost increase to 200 minerals. I don't know, I'm pulling the number out of my ass. Hydra Den, now available after spawning pool, rather than lair. Hydra upgrades, remain at lair. Would this be too powerful? I don't know. Probably not. But at the very least, you could do some things. And again, I know I'm always talking about Brute War, but like... yeah, okay, maybe... Alright, anyways, let's have a look. Spore Crawler is too strong. I think Spore Crawler is too strong. It's kind of dumb to not have a Spore Crawler. Like, you can just kind of make a Spore Crawler and deal with all the aggression. Spore Crawler changes. Yeah, I agree. Revert. Spore Crawler damage plus HP. Spore Crawlers are way better now. Oracles basically see a Spore Crawler and they run. I think it's insane. It's too strong. It's like similar DPS to the other races anti-air now. Yeah, but the way that the dynamic works out with like Oracles being so important and them just immediately getting blasted by a Spore Crawler, I think is a little lame. But yeah, maybe you're right. Lurker HP nerf, I don't really care about. Although I'm assuming this is a Lurker HP nerf because he is suggesting bringing the Disruptor back up to full damage. Maybe.
And the Lurker hit point nerf have all been reverted. So basically, these are just all the changes from the last patch. They lowered the Lurker hit points so that it could still get two-shotted by the shit Disruptor. I'm going to rebuff the Disruptor, so that's fine. That goes back to how it was. Spore Crawler.
All right, how do I feel about Disruptors across the board? Follow-up question. When's the last time you've seen a Disruptor do anything? They nerfed Disruptors. Now they no longer one-shot Ravagers. Or, sorry, they no longer one-shot Roaches, and they no longer one-shot Marauders. Not that you regularly make Disruptors against Zerg anyway, but it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's one of those, like, Disruptors are cool, but also people hate playing against them on the ladder, but at the highest level, they rarely do anything. They are interesting, but not much fun to watch. I think they're pretty fun to watch. I think right now they're kind of boring to watch because they don't really do anything important. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree. So revert lurker HP nerf. And then over here, revert. I agree, Pick. Dude. Revert Disruptor nerf. We haven't really talked about Terran yet, but we'll get there.
I just think this is...
Disruptors need a snowball attack? No! We removed the rockets on the... No, hold up. Where is it? We removed the water balloon attack, man. We're not adding a water balloon to the Disruptor.
Awkward for Zerg openings. It's made Zerg feel a little bit more cucked in the early game. And I just don't think...
That is a word I have never used.
We need it. I also think because the Spore Crawler does so much damage, ZVP is more boring than ever. Adepts and Oracles aren't diving mineral lines as much. Instead, they're just going around the edge and picking off creep and trying to be annoying. It's like you've created a more static early game with a wild diving Protoss.
Lowko, please stop agreeing with Pig. We want drama. Okay, I'm sorry. Pig, your patch fucking sucks.
Players have been...
Okay, clip that and take it out of context and then send it to him. We'll create drama.
Disincentivized from being aggressive, and instead they're just like, I'm just gonna chrono probes and just sit there with my dong in my hand making Stalker Storm and just probing up while the Oracles and Adepts just poke around and clearing.
I love probing up with my dong in my hand. It's one of my favorite things.
It's created more of an economic arms race and an even more samey early game ZVP.
Yeah.
So I think we should revert this. I know people are like, oh, but that'll make Hellbat timings disappear again or something. Yeah, I get it. Like, I don't mind the idea of nerfing the Queen and
Hellbat timings in ZVT? I think they have already almost disappeared as it is. When's the last time we've seen them?
some way, but I just don't think this was the change.
Pig and Lowko look weirdly similar. Are you trying to say every white guy looks the same, Brusick? Is that what I'm... I will have you know that Pig's spawn location is literally on the other side of the globe. Like, I spawned on the other side of the planet. Yeah.
To do it, so I'm not sure. Maybe in the future we can revisit this. I just think get rid of it. It also, for people who've been playing StarCraft for 15 years, changing fundamental thing like hatchery.
Yeah, Pig spawned on the PvE server, man. It's crazy. The biggest PvE over here in the Netherlands that we have is like a swan. Actually, no, we have wolves in the Netherlands now. We have wolves. They came from Germany. Yeah. And apparently they've made their way through here. But there's a lot more PvE in Australia. It's like a hardcore PvE server, yeah.
Queen cost. I know people who don't play as hardcore as the pros or myself. And unlike us who adjust in a day or two to the new mineral cost, it just feels weird for them. And often it turns them off the game. So
once again, Germany.
Terran, all right, guys, we got the same Widowmine change that...
Okay. Now, Widowmine changes. How do we feel about Widowmine changes, chat? So, Hearthstone suggested that the Widowmine should once more be invisible after the armory finishes. First off, I think if we're going to do anything even remotely like this... Oh, he says it over here too. Once upon a time, and this is one of the weirdest patches that I have ever seen in StarCraft 2, dude. I find this kind of weird. So they did this a few years ago, where the cost of the armory was reduced from 150-100 to 150-50. Why? Why did this ever get changed? I don't know why. It was just like one of those weird Band-Aid changes. They were like, well, these things got buffed, so we need to be compensated some other way. I think it's weird. I think they were trying to buff Terran mech, but what this really buffs is the transition from 1-1 into 2-2 for Terran bio. Like, this is more of a buff to bio than to mech, even though it's an armory. I think this is stupid. I think armory cost from 150, 100, or sorry, 150, 50 to 150, 100. I feel like that's very reasonable, just because it feels kind of dumb. Was it to put it more in line with other upgrade structures from other races? No. No. It's much cheaper for Terran to transition into it. Plus, for Terran, in order to go from 2-2 bio to 3-3 bio, the requirement is still just an armory. Whereas for the other races, you need to actually get additional tech. So I don't know why this like was made better. It's just weird. I don't really like it very much. Now, I also don't really like the Widowmine becoming invisible again. So the idea behind this is that it makes Terran more oppressive out on the map in TVP. So the TVP mid-game, I'm not an expert in TVP. But yeah, Harshnam suggested basically, so Harshnam, a Protoss player, he suggested that Terrans should be able to go out onto the map again and be oppressive in the mid-game with Widowmines burrowed all over the place. So he's basically saying, yo, make them invisible after the armory finishes. Now, I'm curious to hear Pig's thoughts on this.
Weird for them, and often it turns them off the game. So I think we should revert that. Terran, all right, guys, we got the same Widowmine change that Harshnam proposed. This is the most controversial change. People are going, no. The Widowmine becomes invisible after armory? No,
That's
there's going to be Widowmines everywhere. I get you guys. I was really going back and forth on this. The reason I think this is necessary is I do think it's, don't get me wrong, it's a little annoying as a Zerg to deal with, but I do think Overseers are very accessible, and you can, especially if you do some run-bys and stuff, fight for map control with the Terran and do pretty well against them if you do a little bit of basic spreading. Is it annoying to play against? Yes, but it's also one of the strong things that Terran has. And the main goal for this is TVP. I get it affects TVZ as well, because now you need to make Overseers a bit more. Thing is, I don't know how it was at you guys level. Obviously, at pro level, high level, Terrans get a pretty fast second factory and go drilling.
I don't know what it's like with you plebs, because I am Pig. I am above this sort of, but I don't know if he meant it like that, but that was really funny. Sorry, let's listen to that again.
Make Overseers a bit more. Thing is, I don't know how it was at you guys level. Obviously, at pro level, high level, Terrans get.
I try to not use the word "you guys." I have used the words "you guys" before in the past. It's best to avoid it, I think.
Quite fast second factory and go drilling claws in TVZ. So all this does is it speeds up by about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. Some games how early
You feel seen
that the Widowmines become invisible. It gives a slight shift forward.
So okay, this is one of those things, invisible Widowmines, that is good for the pro level. I can agree with that, but I feel like it is absolute ass for everybody who's not a pro gamer. I think playing against Widowmines is one of the most frustrating things ever, and it's always a balancing act, right? You wanna balance the game for the highest level. I think there's no other way. In a perfect world, you would balance for every league individually or whatever, but that doesn't make any sense. So you would need to balance for the pro level. However, I feel like you can go a little too far, and I wonder if you are not at like 300 plus actions per minute, like you guys, when you're not at, like, I don't know what it's like for you guys below 300 APM, but when you, now, I just don't know if it's fun to play against Cloak Widowmines. I don't know if it's good. Sorry, I just learned from Pig how to do this. Invisible Widowmines? Oh, I'm not at 300 APM either, no. I'm just... I don't know. I'm conflicted on the Widowmine situation.
Forwards on that at pro level. And don't get me wrong, maybe at noob level, they never make drilling claws. They just keep making Widowmines regularly. And now they just make an armory and they're invisible. And obviously that is a big buff. It is a buff. I'm not going to say it's not. But I don't think it's like the game-changing thing. I think Widowmines currently are still hard to deal with for a lot of Zerg players in the mid and low level out there. Remember, the Widowmine will still have its AoE nerfed. It still has a big red line that shows where it's targeting.
Yeah.
Its area effect got nerfed in previous patches, keeping that. And it gives an attack alert when a Widowmine burrows and targets your unit on the map before it fires. Just the moment it tracks onto a unit, it gives you an attack alert. These are all changes that are still there. But what we're doing is we're making it so that it can still give Terran a little bit of options for map control. So if
If this change is too impactful, we go to plan B. Make it so the armory can upgrade drilling claws instead of having an armory and a factory on a tech lab. I kind of like that better. Yes, I like that idea better. It also feels better. It feels weird to me to like unlock a new ability on a unit just for having a structure and not for having an upgrade. Because pretty much all other abilities in the game are unlocked by researching an upgrade. I feel like making the drilling claws research and moving it to the armory is way more fun. Because the main problem is that, like, when you make Widowmines, you have a reactor on your factory. However, if you want to research the upgrade for drilling claws, you have to put a tech lab on your factory, which isn't, like, just annoying. It's also just, like, not fun, and it doesn't flow very well. You basically take a backseat to momentum, which sucks ass. So I think moving the upgrade itself is kind of nice. Yeah. Move drilling claws. Upgrade to armory. Armory? Armory. Armory. You know what somebody pointed out to me some time ago in a YouTube comment? That it would make way more sense for the engineering bay to have the mechanical upgrades for the mechanical units, and that the armory should be the structure that upgrades the stuff for the biological units, the infantry. And I've not really been able to let go of this. I've been trying. It might be actually backwards. Yes. You know another thing that has always kind of bugged me in StarCraft 2? Let me show you 2 upgrades, okay? Here's the first upgrade. Let me see. And here's the second upgrade. I am convinced that somebody at Blizzard messed these up. Which of these 2 upgrades looks like it would make the unit go faster? And which of these 2 upgrades looks like it would be able to tunnel? This is definitely the Roach speed upgrade. This is definitely the tunneling claws upgrade, but they're in backwards. This is crazy, no? It's not how it is, though. This is Roach speed in the game. This... Yeah, they've put them in backwards. Like, somebody made the icons and then they put it in backwards. Oh, sorry.
If the Protoss wants to dominate the map, they need to do a little bit more effort with either observers or oracles to go around and just use that detection to clear up that map control. I am thinking, if this change is too impactful...
I'm thinking ghosts. Ghosts to 2 supply. Look, they nerfed ghosts and made them 3 supply each. It is the dumbest change as far as elegance goes in a long time. I think it's kind of stupid. The fact that ghosts are 3 supply rather than 2 just feels like it's just such a blunt approach. They could have literally changed it anyway. Moving them to 2 supply feels way more logical.
We can go plan B, just make it so armory can upgrade drilling claws.
Yeah.
21 seconds to 25 seconds. Something like, basically just add a few seconds, because when you...
Yeah.
And they have
no, I don't know about Widowmine build
you might
time
have
increase.
to go vacuum clean a little bit as mid-game TVP in the last...
I think you nerf ghosts in another spot.
Something like that. Like,
so, big suggestion is to make them light. Meaning that they would take bonus damage to things like, for example, Banelings and Colossi. I feel like that's very reasonable. Reduced HP from 100 down to 80. Reduced DPS to not have bonus versus light, just flat 10 per shot. I don't know about that, man. I feel like ghosts from 3 supply. Ghosts have light armor. Bonus from Banes and Colossus. I feel like that's very reasonable. Make them 2 supply again. Make them take bonus damage from Banes and Colossus. I think that's fine. It feels a little too much, man. Like, sometimes you look at like a Terran late game army, and it feels like they have like 20 units, but they're actually at 200 supply. It's just because like half of their army supply happens to be this tiny little group of ghosts.
Point is, make it just... It's still a combat unit, but right now it's a very good combat unit for both tanking.
So the problem is that ghosts are like great spellcasters. They counter all Zerg late game units in particular, right? They have phenomenal EMP that is extremely good against Protoss. So they counter all of that. Then, unlike other spellcasters in the game, they have great auto attack damage. And then third, unlike all other spellcasters in the game, they're tanky as hell. So they're just good. Like, they're just too good. Maybe moving or reducing their auto attack DPS is actually reasonable. Hard to say, but it definitely does feel like they're too well-rounded. And I really don't like going from 2 to 3 supply. So right now they're 3 supply each. They always used to be 2. I think it's just kind of dumb. I think we should have like ghosts, base damage reduction. I don't know how much. But you know how like sometimes you have a situation where you see like a big group of ghosts? There's like 5 ghosts or whatever with like 3 Medivacs up above, and like the Zerglings surround them all, and the ghosts still win the fight because they just can't. Like, they can't. I think it's kind of silly. It just all like the base damage is very high. Maybe don't make them have any base attack, bro. Give them a water balloon and then remove that one too. Ghosts now have paintball guns. Let's keep them lore accurate. They accidentally took the wrong gun out of the armory, not the engineering bay. They took them out of the they went with the paintball gun this time around. No, okay, hold up. It's a sniper. If we want it to be lore accurate, ghost base damage reduction by reducing attack speed by 200%. So it just fires way slower. Because it needs to fucking, like, reload a giant... Like, I don't know how big a bullet in a sniper rifle is. But it would, you know, you can't just rapid fire those off. Yeah. Ghost, attack speed, reduction by 200%. And I, again, don't know if any of my numbers are good. But I feel like that would be very reasonable. And it would kind of be lore accurate, too. Because it's kind of stupid for a sniper to deal little damage. So maybe dial the attack speed instead.
And damage output are just softening those a little bit. I mean, it is part of the ghost design is he's a combat spellcaster. I don't think you want to remove that completely. That is part of the identity of the unit, but, you know, just make it a little less obnoxious. And I think the light tag is obviously mostly targeted towards...
Okay, I'm interested in the EMP redesign.
The reason I like this change is because we're redesigning EMP, which will nerf the ghost massively versus Protoss. You might be like, well, I don't build Colossus, so this doesn't help me. Don't worry, this does. It's going to still do...
Very good parenting right there by Pig. You'll love to see it.
100 instant energy drain, no change there, but the shield damage has changed. Now it creates an effect on unit it hits, kind of like fungal, you know, where like there's a graphic on the unit that gets hit by it that lasts. In this case, it's going to do the 100 shield damage over 2 seconds. There's also a possible bonus change, if that's not enough.
Okay, so the concept here is that EMP is too much too fast. So if you look at like Parasitic Bomb, 120 damage over a course of time, right? Fungal Growth, tiny little bit of damage, mostly just for the movement ability, but it's like a movement inhibiting kind of spell. Storm, 80 damage, but again, over a period of time. And then we have EMP, which is just like an insta-cast, basically. I mean, there's a tiny little missile, but it's very, like, pretty much impossible to dodge. And it then, like, just deals a blanket amount of damage. There's nothing, like, no counterplay there. That's it. That's it. The only thing you can do is feedback, maybe, as a Protoss player. But other than that, there is no counterplay. I do agree that EMP is just a little bit too oppressive. You know why I think most people don't complain about EMP very much in the StarCraft community? And this has been my theory for a long time, okay? Maybe I'm totally wrong. But I think people don't complain about EMP much is because visually, the animation is not that opposing. Like, it's not that impressive. Parasitic Bomb is very clearly something that deals a stupid amount of damage. Like, you can see it. It's the same for, like, Storm. Like, Storm is visually there. But EMP is like, and half of the army is gone. It's just like, just one little snap, and, like, half of the army is gone because all the shields are disappeared. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's why I never really see a lot of people complaining about EMP, but EMP is insane.
Magnetic Concussion, probably not in an upgrade, probably just comes with it. EMP now slows psionic units by 50% for the 2-second duration. That's going to slow Archons and Spellcasters just as a small bonus since the shield damage is being nerfed heavily. If we want to try something crazy, we could make it a smaller, 20% slow, but affecting all units it hits. The reason I don't want to go straight for that is I imagine Terran being an extreme long-range firepower race that wants to gun down the enemy before they close with them. You add an AoE slow to Terran, tanks, libs,
a little bit
fire. It feels like it would be way too strong. You guys let me know. I mean, I've seen fungal and mech in team games. The enemy tries to close the mech army, and a few fungals go out, and holy moly, it is crazy. Like fungal storm is also like if you have AoE slows combined with splash damage, and it just long range firepower.
I think letting EMP deal damage over time is actually kind of cool. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not exactly sure what the best approach is. No. I'm not saying make snipe AoE. Hold up. I don't know about any of this. Okay, let's think about the next thing for a little bit. I think we should do Raven detection radius is a visible line, kind of like scan. And maybe increase Raven detection range. Right now, Ravens are an awkward unit and you can never really see how much it actually detects. No, I would like to see Ravens as like a late game option. Also, that Hero Marine video has like convinced me. In control groups, make Ravens take a lower priority, or at least make Ghosts take top priority. Hero Marine's argument was basically that if you have a little hit squad of a Raven and then also a couple of Ghosts, you have to keep checking whether or not the Raven didn't accidentally YOLO its way forward, and then you don't know what hotkeys to expect when you select the control group again. It's mostly because in the late game, you never really want to cast the spells that frequently on the Ravens. It's mostly about the priority that you have on the Ghosts. So it's a weird thing. Raven has the same detection range as other detectors. It's just a Terran player skill issue. Yeah, but obviously observers are way better as detectors than Ravens are, right? Like, it's not really the same thing. It's the same for like Ravagers. I would love to also see Ravens have a surveillance mode, like plus 10% but stationary. So we're basically like a extra range, but then stationary. I think that would be very reasonable. Maybe increasing detection range is stupid in that case. Just add surveillance modes, just like the Overseer, just like the Observer.
Crazy combo, but only 20% slow. You've got to throw EMPs out. You've got to have a lot of ghosts in your army. Hey, that might actually be something we could do. I think it would be a really cool idea as well. So something we can explore. Overall,
Raven now has an auto attack? No, I think we need to remove the auto attack out of the high Templar.
Allows EMP to still counter spellcast. It's obliterated by.
I'm not sure on EMP redesigns. I think EMP is oppressive, but it's also very important, right? Like, it's very critical. Also, people are always very vocal about how strong Ghosts are, especially in Terran versus Protoss. But a lot of games, I would say like the majority of the games, the vast majority of games even, end long before Ghost ever hit the battlefield as it is right now anyway. Which, it doesn't seem to happen nearly as frequently as people say it would, if that makes any sense. Like, it just feels... It feels like people are more vocal about it than it actually is a problem. Now, obviously, I don't see every game of StarCraft 2 being played. But at the very least, at the pro level, it is not as common as people sometimes make it sound like it is.
Army dying. Or we might need to do some other stuff to not make it feel unfair, because I'm very aware that TVP is already a problem matchup for everyone that's not a pro gamer. In the late game, especially, you can see like win rates drop.
In control groups, make Ravens take a lower priority. Actually, I'm going to remove the detection line as well. I feel like just surveillance mode is clear. Surveillance mode makes sense.
Off a cliff past 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. Maybe 12, 15 minutes, something like that.
Oh, yeah. He's actually suggesting the same thing.
And that's what I've always experienced.
And he's also suggesting a lower subgroup priority. Yeah.
In my Terran games as well. But that's kind of always been part of StarCraft. too. So that's you know, like that's very hard to unwind that.
So actually, PiG has a different reasoning for it. He's saying that it's about stimming. I'm mostly concerned about the ghost priority in the late game, but I see.
About that more in future videos. The Raven
it's
now
very
has
good.
an auto attack. Same reasoning as the Infestor. From getting to those, the link, get more auto attack. It's still going to make it hard to tab over.
Okay, Terran Balance Council reversions. Widowmine reduced. Okay, sure. Yeah, making the Widowmines slightly faster to fire if you move the drilling claws and make the armory more expensive, maybe.
Over to it to stim your units and microing them, which doesn't sound big. Trust me, if you build some muscle memory playing high-level Terran, you will realize how effing annoying the Raven is. There is a reason a lot of even top Terrans will fly the Raven off and just go harass a base because they just don't want to deal with that extra thing that will inconsistently mess up their muscle memory.
Yeah. That's what this is all about. Like the priority system. It just makes it difficult to actually select the group and reliably know what the hotkeys are going to be before you select the hotkey. Like when you select, I don't know, Ravagerling Bane, you always know that the first hotkey you press for casting abilities is going to be Corrosive Bile. But if you select a control group with a Raven in it, if the Raven happened to have died and you hit the hotkey for Stimpec, you will now stim all of your units rather than throw down an auto turret. It's kind of dumb. You run into a lot of silly problems with the Raven's priority system. It just needs to not take top priority. There's no reason for it.
They're going to remove the Widowmine drilling claw nerf, guys. Just make it so they can still burrow really quickly. We're going to buff the Liberator. We're going to make it back to its original cost. We are going to make it more expensive, back to 150, 150. Remember, these are reversions. We're reversing these. And we're going to give it 3 range, back from 2, which I know map makers will hate me for, but I just feel like, look, if the Lib gets in a nasty spot, the play...
I don't know how I feel about Liberator buffs. It feels to me that Liberators in general are very oppressive. We see them a lot right now in Zerg versus Terran. We see them a lot as well in Terran versus Protoss late game. And the way that Protoss players deal with Liberators, if they cannot go into Skytoss, which usually they can't, is by running around it with Stalkers. And it's the same with, like, I don't know, like, say, what are they called? Ultralisk just absolutely getting decimated. Maybe it's a necessity to revert some of the Liberator changes if you end up changing the Ghost. But I feel like if we're gonna, if we're gonna buff Widowmines, I feel like keeping the Liberator slightly weaker, like it's still really freaking strong, is reasonable.
Player can deal with it. I don't want map makers to have to bend over backwards for this. I think it's you know, as long as you can cut off the libs on the edges from getting to those spots. Libs are more expensive, and Fusion Core is pretty hard to get to, you know? It's okay. Look, if someone gets a really abusive lib spot on a map, we know that lib spot exists, the players know about it. Yes, it will sometimes create something that feels...
Okay. Yeah, I have been listening to this video for a while already. I'm gonna speed forward a little bit. I'm not 100% convinced on changing the Liberators. So he also says ghost reduction or ghost supply again back to 2 rather than 3. And snipe damage reduction again as well to 170. I don't really like late game interactions with Ghost very much. Can I actually open the document? I may as well just be able to tell. I don't know exactly what else he's going to be including here, but I don't know if I like the idea of snipe damage. Like, this would make them better against pretty much all Zerg units in the late game again. Now, I mostly play Zerg myself. I might be slightly Zerg biased. I try not to be. But I just think of all the games I have seen over the last few months at the highest level where Zerg just gets decimated by late game Ghost anyways, and then make them, like, better is kind of nutty to me. Especially after you make them 2 supply again. I don't know. I find that a little bit lame. Okay, let's have a look at what he suggests for the Protoss changes. So energy recharge nerf. Energy recharge now recharges 75 energy instead of 100. Okay. So it's a similar idea as what Hearthstone was proposing with energy recharge cooldown. I think the Hearthstone change is a little bit more elegant, but fair enough. Observer surveillance mode vision is nerfed. Okay. Wait, observer surveillance mode gives you 25%? Is that right? 25%? Is that 25%? Oh yeah, it is. Wow. Transform into observer surveillance mode. The observer gains 25% wider vision, but loses the ability to move. Wow, I literally thought it was 10%. I'm crazy. I'm way off. I like this. Let's make it 15% like flat. Observer surveillance mode from 25% to 15%. I didn't realize it was 25%. That's crazy. Radius reduction, by the way, is significant, right? Because the way that like the surface area works, any radius reduction is massive. And I'm saying, like, I'm assuming Overseer. I'm assuming Overseers are also, like, I would like to see less vision in general. Yeah, this is also 25%. Dang. So Overseer surveillance mode from 25 to 15%, and then add it to the game for Ravens. 25% is actually a lot. Oracle Revelation, lower range to 8, down from 9 previously, but currently bugged to 12. Since it's AoE, it's bigger. I don't know if it's bugged, but it's because, like, if something is on the edge, it will just move, right? No, I feel like having stationary detection like that is reasonable. Hallucinations have -4 sight. I think that's also reasonable. I don't know about Oracle Revelation. I feel like Oracle Revelation is such an important thing that it might not be a terrible idea, but... So this is, like, the idea, again, is to remove the amount of scouting, right? So... Or at least reduce the amount of scouting a little bit. So... hallucinated units have less vision. So if the units are flying around, like say you have an hallucinated phoenix, right now you can kind of just see everything as if it's a regular unit. I think reducing their vision a lot is reasonable. So you actually have to scout. Like you actually have to pay attention to your scout rather than just kind of queue it around the main and then look back after the phoenix is gone. Like you actually have to actively look. Add the ability to hallucinate capital ships. Why the fuck not? I want to pretend I'm going carriers? I actually never really thought about it. Yes. 100%. I didn't even ever think about that. Yes, why not? Hallucinated carriers plus Tempests are now available. That would be really fun. No, seriously, like if you could, like, no. I think faking a mothership is too much. But if you want to fake going into Skytles to your opponent, so you hallucinate a couple carriers, make them freak out, put down a Spire or whatever, and then hit them with a ground attack, that's really fun. I think that'd be fun. Maybe you don't think so if you're a Zerg player, but I think that's kind of fun. Faking multiple mothership would be kind of weird, yeah. Hallucinated Phoenix and Oracles now take 400% more damage, more reasonable. You can actually deny the scout. I think a vision nerf is better. Bonus, add an upgrade to the Cybercore to unlock hallucination. Isn't that what you have in Brood War? Fucking Brood War again, man, with their stupidly well-made game. Actually, this used to be a thing in StarCraft 2 as well, where you had to research hallucination, but they changed it. Nobody ever did. Stasis wards, 80-second nerf to stasis ward duration, so it lasts 90 seconds. Spamming stasis wards is dumb. Okay. I can work with... Yeah, I can... I think this is a very good change. I almost forgot about this one. I've complained about this a million times in the past. Once upon a time, they made it so that, like, when you blink with Dark Templar, there is now a 1 second delay before they can actually attack. Why? Stupid. You already paid the price going into a Dark Shrine anyway, and then you actually have to, like, make all of the freaking Dark Templar too, which is super expensive. I think making them just be able to blink and then immediately attack is very reasonable. Yeah. So this is a revert. Dark Templar. Here we go. I think the supply nerf. Revert, Disruptor, damage nerf. I think that's also very fun. So they're actually like a scary unit again. Because right now, Disruptors are just kind of weird. I think also the Tempest. Revert, Tempest, supply. So they're +1 supply. Because right now you never see carriers anymore because of it. I think it's fair. What's going on, Bonnekoek? 4 years? Very nice. I think the 1 second delay is a must. Marine Lord literally left the game because of this. No, I think that's fair. I think that's totally fine. Then why didn't he come back after they changed it? No. I think stasis wards are a little too oppressive. I agree. What is an elegant nerf to stasis wards? Just duration reduction? Is there something better than that? Yeah, it's mostly the energy recharge that's the problem, right? Because you have infinite energy on your oracles. So if the energy recharge is the problem, maybe nerf it slightly more. Less energy regen? I feel like that would be okay. I think changing stasis wards then on top of that is like your classic like double nerf, which is unnecessary. Disruptors? I think it's okay. I think Disruptors, making them better again is fine. Immortal cost reduced. Ooh, that's actually a good point. They were made slightly cheaper, but then their weapon cooldown was like increased. I agree. Revert, immortal damage changes plus attack speed changes. Sorry, cost changes plus attack speed changes. And then essential ladder bugs? Yeah, no, 100%. These are all stupid. Okay, we have a list. I actually have a list. Great video, by the way, from PiG. I like that PiG actually took the initiative to like make this a thing again. There has been a little bit of chatter here and there about what people like. No, I already put the Tempest changes here. The Tempest supply changes are already here. I would like to see how this plays out. So Infested Terran instead of Microbial Shroud is kind of a crazy thing to start off with. But I really would like to see it. I would also really like to see Hydra then, like at Hatchery Tech. I think that would be really fun. Maybe this is all too much. Well, yeah, Hearthstone started this a little while ago. I already talked about that video at length as well. So I guess Hearthstone is the one that kind of started rolling the ball, right? And PiG is kicking it along. You're right. My bad. I also... More experimental maps, please. Look, I fucking love the idea of healing circles and all the rest of it. I like 3-player maps. Can we, like... Rather than like a tiny little healing circle, can we actually make it meaningful? Like, come on. Like, why are we, like, making new features on the map, and then we, like, make it that big so, like, 4 Zerglings fit inside of it? So stupid. We have 9 maps in the map pool. Please, like, you know, make it better, or like make it like more aggressively positioned so you can actually like fight your opponent, go back to the healing circle, and then immediately fight again. Like something to like... I feel like more experimental maps is good. Because even though the maps right now are far more experimental than they were like 3 years ago, I'm bored of them again. I wouldn't mind more experimentation. Yeah. Now, obviously, none of these changes in isolation really are going to make a lot of sense. And I'm not saying like this should be immediately copy-pasted onto the ladder, right? Like that would be stupid. Please don't ever do that. But just thinking out loud and like thinking about like all of the different aspects of each of the matchups and then trying to decide how you could figure that sort of thing out and make it better, I think it's a fun thought process. And, you know, I'm obviously not a balance designer. I don't know how this would play out, but I feel like we can have more experimental stuff. Like, I really don't think we need to be doing all of this, like, extreme stability. And right now, I think across the board, there's too much scouting in the game. Like, it's too easy to scout what your opponent is doing. And it basically makes it so that we just see the same builds over and over and over again. Now, you could make the argument that creating a very stable game where you can scout everything means that the better players always rise to the top, because it technically reduces the amount of randomness in a game. But I think it's kind of fun. Like, hiding, I don't know, like, say you're in a terrible spot, you, like, spent your last little bit of money on a dark shrine. Right now, your opponent can always kind of just scout it immediately. Which, I don't know, I like having a little bit of volatility. I think it's fun. I think just having more aggressive options is also a cool idea. I don't know. But I'm hoping that Blizzard is gonna, like, actually wake up and do some cool stuff again. That'd be fun.